La Universidad Autónoma de Guadalajara, a través de la Unidad Académica de Diseño, Ciencia y Tecnología, les da la más cordial bienvenida a la presentación del libro El emprendedor solitario. Me permitiré presentar a las personalidades que hoy nos acompañan. Ingeniero Joel García Ornelas, decano de la Unidad Académica de Diseño, Ciencia y Tecnología de esta institución y representante de nuestras autoridades. Michael Dermer, autor del libro El emprendedor solitario. Iniciando con nuestro evento, el ingeniero Joel García Ornelas hará lectura de una semblanza de nuestro invitado especial, así como del libro que se presenta el día de hoy.
Buenos días. Michael, welcome to UAE. Thank you for your coming. Voy a leer la semblanza del señor Michael Dermer. Él es graduado de la Universidad de Bucknell y de la Facultad de Derecho de la Universidad de Northwestern. Michael Dermer es un renombrado emprendedor y autor conocido por la búsqueda de ideas que actúan como oxígeno en el ámbito emprendedor. Su primer emprendimiento, conocido como Innocent Want, fue la primera empresa en introducir recompensas e incentivos para impulsar el comportamiento de los consumidores y proveedores hace más de una década, mucho antes de que las recompensas por un comportamiento saludable estuvieran de moda. Hoy en día, las recompensas para la salud están en todas partes y ayuda a energizar a los consumidores y proveedores para mejorar la salud. En algunos círculos, Michael es considerado el fundador del movimiento de las recompensas de la salud. La compañía de él fue vendida al innovador Welltok en 2013. Su último emprendimiento es The Lonely Enterpreneur, un método diseñado para ayudar a los emprendedores. Él es fundador y autor de este libro, empapado en la experiencia de Michael que se conduce a través de Innocent Want y de la crisis financiera que se presenta en el 2008. Esta obra proporciona las ideas que ayudan a los emprendedores a cambiar su perspectiva para prosperar bajo la presión, el caos y la carga de ser emprendedor. Michael ha aparecido en medios de comunicación como MSNBC, CBS, ABC, The Huffington Post, Sirius Radio, Voice America y la televisión nacional y regional. Él es un conferencista buscado en las comunidades emprendedoras. The Lonely Enterpreneur está disponible en los Estados Unidos y en los Emiratos Árabes. Hoy en día, Michael es también fundador de Dermer Group, una firma de consultoría que ofrece servicios de consultoría de recompensa e incentivo al mercado. Michael es considerado uno de los principales expertos de la nación en el uso de recompensas e incentivos para impulsar el cambio en el comportamiento de los consumidores y proveedores. Aprendió de la administración de más de 4,000 programas y 40 millones de transacciones en una década. La misión personal de Michael es un programa de recompensas en el que todos los estadounidenses pueden ser saludables y ser recompensados. Desde 2003 ha estado guiando a los planes de salud, los emprendedores, los sistemas de salud, los gobiernos y los proveedores sobre cómo utilizar incentivos para reducir costos y mejorar la salud de todo el país. Él es un orador destacado y autor. Ha contribuido a muchas publicaciones, incluyendo el Huffington Post, Forbes, Daily Investor, Healthcare Place News, Employee Benefit News, Employee Benefit Advisor, Benefit and Compensation Solutions, Healthcare and DCHC Solutions. Michael también ha sido un orador destacado en más de 50 eventos de la industria. Ha contribuido a las organizaciones influyentes de la industria de la salud, incluyendo el Center Health Transformation, The Clinton Foundation, Health Evolution Partners, The Jefferson School, Pacific Business Group, Midwest Business Group, entre otros. Michael ha sido copresidente del Comité de Compromiso de la Alianza de la Salud de la Población y miembro del grupo de trabajo de PHE y HERO en los reglamentos de incentivos recompensas de la IEOC. También es reconocido por sus numerosos premios de la industria, incluyendo un finalista para el premio 2001 en Ernst & Young, Emprendedor del Año. Él ha tenido la oportunidad de trabajar con algunos de los mejores planes de salud de América, incluyendo a Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare, WellPoint, General Motors, JP Morgan, CalPERS, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, Mutual, American Red Cross, Motorola y otros. Antes de fundar Innocent One, el señor Dermer fue abogado de fusiones y adquisiciones con Wilkie Farr & Gallagher, una firma de abogados de Nueva York. En su obra, El emprendedor solitario, se dice que emprendedor no es un trabajo, es una identidad. ¿Sientes que tienes un gran negocio, pero estás luchando para prosperar? ¿Sientes que el mundo está sobre tus hombros? ¿Sientes que estás energizado y abrumado al mismo tiempo? ¿Sientes que nadie entiende o se preocupa tanto como tú? En El emprendedor solitario, el autor y emprendedor, el señor Dermer, les muestra cómo prosperar en la lucha empresarial cambiando su perspectiva. Lo que tomó una década en construir fue destruido en 10 días. Michael se enfrentó a la tormenta perfecta de las luchas cuando el negocio que duró 10 años construyendo fue casi eliminado en 10 días por la crisis financiera en 2008. Clientes en bancarrota, inversionistas enfurecidos, los acreedores enojados. Se necesitarían años para trabajar durante 24 horas al día para salvar una empresa. ¿Cómo lo hizo? La diferencia entre el éxito y el fracaso es tu perspectiva. Michael cambió su perspectiva, se dio cuenta de que con la perspectiva correcta las soluciones estaban por todas partes. Con la perspectiva equivocada, las tareas más simples parecían imposibles. Vendió con éxito su empresa y se convirtió en un pionero de la industria y descubrió una metodología que ayuda a todos los emprendedores con el tema que enfrentamos, en esta lucha. El emprendedor solitario es un libro en el que aprenderás cómo identificar las perspectivas perjudiciales que se desarrollan bajo las influencias de las 4 Ps: presión, pasión, placer y pena. Cambiar tus perspectivas de aquellas que sofocan el progreso a aquellas que te dan poder para prosperar. Estas son solo algunas estrategias, metodologías y experiencias que hoy tendremos el gusto de escuchar del señor Dermer y que deja plasmados en su obra El emprendedor solitario. Muchas gracias y bienvenido.
Sin más preámbulo, cederé la palabra a Michael Dermer, autor del libro El emprendedor solitario.
I was a corporate lawyer. Went to work for a big New York law firm, was doing, mergers and acquisitions for 3 years, and I literally stumbled on incentives. There wasn't anything like there out there. There was incentives and rewards in like your credit card program and your bank, but there wasn't anything in healthcare. Back then, not only was it not existent, it was offensive to reward people for being healthy. I mean, when we went to people, they would say, we are never going to pay people to do the things that they should be doing anyway. We really believed we were onto something. And so I went from corporate office at a prestigious New York law firm to basically going to be working in this basement. It's got nothing on the wall, and it's just me and my first employee, Randy. And we stuck to it, bootstrapped it. And I started what came to be known as Incent One. And Incent One became basically the first company to reward people for being healthy. We really felt like not only could we create a good business, but we actually could change the world a little bit. It was October 15, 2008, and we just closed our big private equity investment. It was literally almost 10 years to the day that we started. So it should have been a day for us to celebrate, and literally the world just came crashing down around us. And what took us 10 years to build up to a multi-million-dollar business was gone in 10 days. Our largest customers, Washington Mutual, Countrywide Financial, General Motors, were literally on the front page of the Wall Street Journal about not surviving. Our investors are angry, family's really concerned. My brother and I are battling, every day. Our credit's drying up almost instantly. All credit to everybody was gone. And then you have all of your customers. And then, as you can imagine, a couple hundred employees wondering what's going on. Before, when you had a biggest challenge, you'd walk across the street and you'd try to decide whether to go left or right. And at this time, you'd walk across the street and you'd know if the street was going to be there. I really couldn't say to the people I cared about the most, not just my family and my brother and his family, but also employees, hey, we just have to do this and we'll be fine. I didn't have the answers at that moment. Those times at 2 in the morning, we're just trying to figure out how to turn $1 into 10 were interesting. We were looking at 2 years to save what it took us 10 years to build, and I don't know if I can save it.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
I used to, at that time, get up at like 5 in the morning and go to the gym and go sweat, and it just hit me. It was up to me. I got us in this. I've got to get us out of this. And more so than anything, I realized that I had to start to look at things a different way. I had to start to change my perspective about normal problems and normal solutions. Almost like 2 + 2 didn't have to be 4. I remember walking out of the gym almost like in a daze, almost like if I had walked across the street, I would get hit by a bus because I wasn't even paying attention, right? There was this idea in my mind that there's got to be a different way of thinking about these problems because the normal ways weren't going to work. And it really opened my mind and frankly my heart, because you were going to have to come up with ways that you never thought of before. And once that kind of clicked with me, it made me think about every single piece of the business and every single perspective, frankly, that I had, because my perspective had to change first. Once I got out of the kind of hard-charging mentality of just what it was going to take from get A to point B, and enabled me to really take a step back and say, what didn't I know? And it gives you almost a freedom to say, I don't have all the answers, And I've got to start to look in places I hadn't looked before. How do you think about investors differently? How do you think about your people differently? How do you think about customers differently? Serious problems. And that really, in a lot of ways, re-energized me. The real aha moment for me was, it wasn't a different spreadsheet or a new advisor or another business plan. There's no shortage of those tools out there today. It was really the change in perspective that was the key. There were two pretty amazing things that came from that. One was we sold the company, and today are probably considered the founder of the industry that gives people, rewards for healthy behavior. To have that change of perspective, have a positive result, is something that, I'm incredibly proud of. But the other thing that came out of it that I didn't even realize was that this change in perspective was really a way of thinking that could help a lot of other people. The universal problem was the struggle. Right? You have two businesses, two of the exact same businesses. Why does one succeed and one not succeed? It's all about how you manage the struggle. And that is really the key to helping everybody that goes through this actually be able to shift from just battling and struggling and surviving to really thriving. And that's what really led me to the Lonely Entrepreneur.
Buenos días. Yo no hablo español. Thank you, first of all, to the university for having me here today. Thank you for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to be here today. You saw a little bit of my story, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what it means to be an entrepreneur. As you saw, I became an attorney, a lawyer, and worked for a New York law firm, but always knew that I wanted to start a business. And I was looking and looking and looking for my business. And as you saw, I started what came to be known as the first company to reward or pay people for being healthy. And in the early 2000s, this did not exist in the United States. And not only did it not exist, but it offended people that we would pay people who are not being healthy. And so, as you saw, I left my law firm job that my parents paid lots of education for and went on my own to start the business. And we did what we call in the United States blood, sweat, and tears, right? And built from nothing. And for many, many years, 7, 8, 9 years, we tried to convince the healthcare industry in the US that had not changed for many, many years, that this was the wave of the future. After about 7 or 8 years of doing this, of running uphill, right, the industry really started to agree, and we started to get many, many customers and to grow. In 2008, we had 400 employees, 60 million in sales in US dollars, and as you saw, almost overnight, our business was almost destroyed. The financial crisis in the US, like it was throughout the world, affected almost every major company worldwide, and many of those companies were our biggest customers. So our business that had 400 employees and 60 million in revenue almost got destroyed overnight. And this was supposed to be our time to celebrate. You know, we had, as we say in the US, made it, and now we were going to grow and grow and grow. So for the next 2 years, we worked 20 hours a day to just save what it took us 10 years to build. My brother, who is 1 year apart from me, my family had some money that we invested in the business. usually the end of those 20-hour days at 10 o'clock at night, I would get yelled at by my brother. And then just do that again and again and again every day without being certain of what was going to happen. And it was almost like watching your baby be destroyed. And so we worked and worked and worked for 2 years, every day, for 20 hours. And after about 2 years, things started to stabilize, and we started to grow again. And in the United States, when the financial crisis had started to subside, there was a great deal of interest in our healthcare problem, which we still have today. And there was a lot of interest in this idea of getting people to behave more healthy. And we were approached, and a larger US healthcare company bought my company. And it worked out wonderfully. Investors made money, my family made money, all of our employees that we had to let go during the financial crisis, we had hired back, 400 employees. I was just relaxing, right? But I thought, was there something you could learn from this journey? And I wasn't even working. I was taking it easy, and I was doing some, what we call in the US, entrepreneur coaching, right? Helping people like you just talk about their business and their dreams and their passions. And the one thing that was common with everybody that I was talking to was the struggle. How do you say struggle in Spanish? Again? Problema. The struggle that we all share, right? Whether you're one person or 100 people running a company, it was about the struggle, right? The struggles are different when you're one person than they are when you're 100, but they're just different struggles. And one of the people in the group that I was talking to said being an entrepreneur was really lonely, right? Solitario, right? And I thought to myself, wow, there isn't really something out there that understands the problema, right? The struggle, and helps. So that is what we set out to do. And so, as you heard, our mission is to unlock the potential of people like you throughout the world to turn the struggle into success, right? And that what led us to myself and my colleague Victoria to write originally the Lonely Entrepreneur in English, and now this week, El Emprendedor Solitario in Spanish. Pardon my Spanish. But for you, what we really wanted to do today is to talk a little bit about what we learned and what you can do if you are either an entrepreneur today, or you're thinking about it, or you have family members, right? Who here today considers themselves an entrepreneur now? Who wants to be an entrepreneur in the future? In the US, like many places throughout the world, most people no longer work for large companies, right? They think about what is their idea and their passion and their dream, and how do you turn that into an actual business, okay? But before I talk about business, I want to talk to you a little bit about what it actually means to be an entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneur is actually a French word that means to undertake. And one thing that I learned very quickly, especially from going through that whole experience, it is very easy now in this beautiful university and beautiful city to look back and say, yes, we built a company and we built an industry and we sold a company and everything is good. But at those times, we were not sure. And at those times, many lives, right, my family, investors, customers, all employees, right, were at risk. And what you realize, and it is very important to understand, especially at your age, is being an entrepreneur is not a job. It is an identity. It is not about starting a business, It is about living a more fulfilling life, right? Especially at your age. I wish that when I was in university in the United States, that when I was 19 or 20 or 23, someone had said that to me, because that would have been the start of a journey. And what you realize, that when being an entrepreneur is an identity and not just a job, you work at getting better at it every day. The first time, for example, a mother is a mother, she probably is not very good at it. And then each day, she commits to the journey to get better, right? She doesn't say, on Thursday, I'm not going to be a mother today. And when she has her second child, she's better than when she has her first child. Being an entrepreneur is not just, I'm an entrepreneur, go. Right? It is embracing the journey of getting better at it every single day. It is not one skill. It is hundreds of skills that as you learn and you start your journey here at a university, to learn those skills, and as you get better, you have what we call in the US more arrows in your quiver, or more golf clubs in your golf bag, right? That you learn to apply over time. Okay? And so, what are some of those things that you can learn and you can start to apply? First, you have to understand that no one will care about your idea as much as you do. And you have to accept that, right? You will go home to your dinner table and someone will say to you what time it is, and you will talk to them for 30 minutes about your new fashion line, right? Or they will say to somebody like me, do you prefer to be called Mike or Michael or Miguel? And I will give you an hour speech about my expansion plans into Europe, right? And our idea becomes alive, it becomes like oxygen to us, right? We almost need it to breathe. When someone said to me, being an entrepreneur is really lonely, even though I had sold a company, I didn't need money, I knew what I would do for the rest of my life. So when you have your idea, it becomes like oxygen to you, but you need to realize that's you. The rest of the world talks about family and vacation, right, and the weekend. You have to understand that it is your perspective and that not everyone else will feel that way, right? So you understand that. Second, you have to understand that you are under pressure. And when you are under pressure, we do strange things, right? And you have to understand that when you are under pressure, right, you have to develop skills. I'll give you an example. Let's say I start a business and I'm not making any money yet, and maybe I'm even using my savings if I have any, or I'm borrowing money from friends and family to start. And I'm working 24 hours a day, right? But now I'm ready to hire my first employee, right? That first employee is so important, right? It's the only money you're going to spend that you don't even have. And at that time, because you're under so much pressure and you're working so hard, you'll hire anybody, right? You could interview somebody and you could say, I need them to really understand mangoes or tequila, right? And they may not know anything about mangoes or tequila, and you will say, I'll hire them, because you're under so much pressure, and you make a mistake, okay? So the beginning of the journey is understanding that when you have this passion and spirito, right, and you really believe in your idea, and you're under pressure, like financial pressure or pressure from your family, you have to be able to make good decisions, right? Like hiring the right type of person, okay? We call it, and in the book we call it, the brutal truth. The brutal truth is that you have to look at yourself first. Even though you work all day, spend all your money, don't sleep, drink too much tequila, right? You have to embrace the journey of learning to get better, right? So you recognize that no one cares as much as you do. You embrace the fact that and recognize that you're under this pressure, okay? But what are some other things that are the most important things to do to try to have success? Today, unlike when I started my business, everybody is an entrepreneur. There is technology from everywhere in the world, right? We could all come up with a great idea right now and have a website in 1 hour. And somebody in Dubai or Mexico City or Shanghai could copy that idea in 1 hour. So why does one business succeed and another business not succeed? If we assume we all have competition every day from everywhere, how do we win? Okay? First, we may need your help here, stand out from the crowd. Does that make sense? Right? To be different. When everybody goes left, you have to go right. Right? As entrepreneurs, we don't have money, we don't have resources. So if we go where everybody else goes, we can't win. Right? If you go to Zara, right, and say, I've got a beautiful red dress for you, what will Zara say? We have many red dresses. Okay? But what if you took that same red dress and for every professional that graduated from UAG, you got a personal shopping experience with that same red dress? It would be only you. So more so than ever today, even more so than passion and belief, right, is you have to be able to do it differently. How do you do it in a way so you are the only one doing it? Right? That means you really have to think, right? Because if you can think quickly of that, everybody else has already as well. We call this in the US, sometimes we call it standing out from the crowd. Sometimes we call it find a playground where nobody else is playing, right? And you create that playground and you are the only one there, okay? Very, very important lesson. Number two, you have to understand what you are good at and what you like and what you are not good at and what you don't like. And this is especially hard for boys, right? We have big egos. We don't like to say, I don't know. But as an entrepreneur, it is very humbling because there are many, many, many things that you need to know. But you have to, again, embrace that journey and say, I really like technology. I am really good at technology. I really hate finances. I'm not good at finances. Because if you spend time on the things that you really don't like, right, it wears you down. If you spend time on the things you like, you will spend all night. And it's always fun. And what you do is when you recognize the things that you are not good at or you don't like, you find someone else who is good at that and does like it, right? If I don't like finances and I'm starting a business in Guadalajara, I would come to the university and say, can I find a student that likes finances, right? You have so many things you need to learn and need to do when you're under the pressure, right? So recognizing what you're good at and what you like allows you to find others, many times not for money. You can find fellow students that can help. You can find many different ways to do it. But as an entrepreneur, when you work so hard every day, if you're doing things you don't like, you won't do it for very long. But if you find others that can help you, right, you can make progress much faster. Okay? What I'd like to do after a few more remarks is it would be terrific, with probably the help of a translator, to listen to questions from you. Things that you're thinking about today, things that you're dreaming about tomorrow. But I wanted to just leave you with one thought. When I was writing the book, The Lonely Entrepreneur in the US, it was so fun and exciting to be able to think about helping people like you. And all of the stories and all the things you saw in the movie were in the past, and they were almost funny to look back, right? It's always easier to look back. I always like to kid around and say, the day before we sold our company, I was an idiot. The next day, I was brilliant. But to look back and to see all that, when I was writing the book, it was very enjoyable. Except right at the end, unfortunately, my father was very ill. And I was in the hospital with him. And while I was there, even with all of the emotion I was going through, as it was very clear that my father was about to lose his life, the entrepreneur in me kept coming out, because they kept trying to stick the oxygen tubes in his nose, and they would fall out every day. And I said to myself, even with crying and being upset and all these things, I kept saying, can't somebody in the medical community invent a clamp that you could put on someone's nose? You know, when you become an entrepreneur, it's like an identity. It's part of who you are. And my father lived a wonderful life, but he had one regret. And the one regret is he had his idea that he never did anything about in his life. And so the one thing I would say to you is we are all incredibly fortunate to be at a wonderful university like this with opportunity that many people don't have. And so I would ask us is to really think that if you have your idea, right, don't let it sit inside you. You never want to look back at the end of your life and say, I wish I had, right? That does not mean you do every dumb idea you have. But it does mean that if there is something that you are passionate about, you may do it yourself. You may give it to a colleague to do. You may give it to an investor to do. But especially at everyone's age here, you should never look back on something that you were truly passionate about and say, I wish I had done it. So thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for listening, and I would love to take questions from anybody in the audience.
Thank you, Michael. Before we start hearing from these young people, I'm not that young, it's just a theoretical question. During the presentation of the dean, he mentioned passion, pleasure, and shame.
Pain.
Pain. Okay, no, pain like...
Pain.
Okay, no, forget it. Because I thought he said something like shame, you know, and so why shame? And it's pain. No, thank you. This 4 P's is the methodology that did you describe it during your book?
Yes, we call it under the influence of these 4 P's, like under the influence like drinking, right? Of pressure, passion, pleasure, and pain. So when we were writing about the book and our experiences, we kept talking about what people went through when you're an entrepreneur. And we would always say things, well, you're under so much pressure, but you have all this passion, but then you get all this pleasure when you win a customer, right? Or you have your first business card. And then there's all this pain of, somebody like an investor, you're raising money and somebody comes to you and tells you doesn't like your business, tells you your baby is ugly, right? And all of those 4 P's affect you. And they affect your ability to think and make good decisions and use these skills, right? And to do it while you're under the influence of these 4 Ps. So that's where that came from. But no shame in emprendedor.
Thank you, Michael.
So, when you were describing the identity aspect of being an entrepreneur, I was wondering if you become an entrepreneur after you start with, like, do you materialize the idea, or once you have the idea? Or, like, at what point do you know you're actually an entrepreneur and not just something else? I don't know.
It's a great question. People in the US and throughout the world ask all the time, are you born as an entrepreneur, right? Or do you grow into an entrepreneur? For me, it was, I think they're all different types. For me, it was the idea. The idea of rewarding people for being healthy. And you go, oh, of course.
Yeah,
And then the lonely entrepreneur, right? Oh, of course,
Okay,
right?
okay.
For me.
Yeah.
For others, it's a spirit that age 5 years old that sell mangoes and lemon, right? It's just, it's there. And for others, it's an understanding. So I don't think entrepreneur is necessarily a job, it's a perspective. You start to think of things differently. So I think it's different for everyone, but I do think that if you start to think of things differently, like not always the way other people think of things, right? You will find that you will be drawn to being an entrepreneur. But it's not like it was 20 years ago, where entrepreneurs were black sheep that left jobs and were crazy. Now it's everybody,
Yeah.
right? So you have to really understand yourself. And some people will say, I always want to do business after business after business. Just they call serial entrepreneur, right? Over and over and over again. That's not me. For me, it's the idea, right? For others, it's watching build something. And for others, it's the idea, right, of controlling your own destiny or pursuing a passion. For all of us, we have to develop skills. And we get better and better and better and better, which is why many of the great business leaders in the US and throughout the world, you know the one thing they say they all have in common? That they failed. And it was from that failure that they learned and grew and embraced that identity. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Pueden preguntar en español también si gustan.
Oh, over here?
Hi. Just one question. How would you describe the feeling of being an entrepreneur nowadays? Like in your case, with your work, with the experience you have, how would you describe it?
It is like stew, all things in soup thrown together, right? Personal, emotional, financial, educational, many, many things together. So every day is passion and excitement, and every day is punch in the face, right? Every single day. But the most important thing is your vision of where you want to go.
Okay.
So every day is like a boxing match, right? But as long as you keep your vision and you keep going and learn and get better, it is the most rewarding feeling you'll ever have to build something and watch it grow and succeed. Okay?
Thanks.
Do you need a business career to achieve something as an entrepreneur?
No. Many,
Why?
many of the great entrepreneurs in the world did not come from business at all. Now, don't get me wrong, to have business training can always help. You know, I was a finance person and started at a law firm, so it helped, okay? But do you need to be a business person? No. You need to be paired with a business person, right? Many of the great businesses, right, were not business people. Steve Jobs, Apple, Starbucks, right? Amazing companies. Many were not business people. Calvin Klein, right? They were creative people that created great vision, right? It always helps, but if you're not, make sure that you have a business person with you, so you can work together to have it be successful, right?
Voy a ir diciendo poco a poco porque necesita la interpretación, por favor. En la actualidad es una realidad que las compañías están haciendo recortes de empleados.
Okay, nowadays, it's a reality that companies are cutting back on employees.
Esto se debe en parte a la tecnología y en parte a la mano de obra barata por la globalización y los empleados de otros países.
A lot to do with the technology and the globalization of outsourcing to other countries.
Así que es un hecho para los jóvenes de ahora, los profesionistas que están egresando, que no solo van a necesitar de una carrera, sino de el emprendurismo, de crear sus propias empresas para realizar sus sueños.
So now, for the students or professionals that are graduating, they're going to need a lot of entrepreneurial skills in order to fulfill their careers.
Por lo tanto, creo que esta conferencia y el mensaje que
So she
Michael
thinks
nos
that
da
this
el día de
conference-
hoy
Perdón.
llega justo en su momento.
So she says that this conference and that you've given us today is the perfect timing to have gotten here.
Gracias.
And finally, congratulations for your book and your successful point of view about business.
Oh, muchas gracias.
Gracias.
What she's saying is very true. So with technology, globalization, right? Jobs with large companies in the US and Mexico, throughout the world, are shrinking. So anyone graduating from a wonderful university like this must think of controlling their own career, controlling their own destiny, right? In the US, there are very rarely people that work for 20 years for the same company, right? So even if you don't think of yourself as an entrepreneur, you will most likely work for a company that is a small company. You will have a father, a son, a daughter, a mother, a cousin, somebody that you care about or believe in who will be an entrepreneur because of the very things that you talked about. So developing those skills, especially from university, is incredibly important. I think I had a gentleman over there. I think you had one over there, Lila. You had one over there? Or on the end. Oh, okay. You and I. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Gracias.
Agradecemos la presencia y presentación de Michael Dermer. Pido la presencia del ingeniero Joel García Ornelas y del ingeniero Eric Lara Pinal, decano y coordinador de vinculación de diseño, ciencia y tecnología, para hacer entrega de un reconocimiento y un obsequio de parte de nuestra institución.
Michael or Miguel, thank you. La Universidad Autónoma de Guadalajara, a través de la Unidad Académica de Diseño, Ciencia y Tecnología, otorga este reconocimiento al señor Michael Dermer por su presentación del libro El emprendedor solitario. A nuestros alumnos del Decanato de Diseño, Ciencia y Tecnología y de Único, Zapopan, Jalisco, 17 de agosto de 2017. Firma su servidor. Muchas gracias.